Yeah, and this episode is brought to you by Rare Bandy. Welcome to Bandyland for your artwork and merch, because art is everything and everything is art. It's 10 o'clock on a Sunday, and I'm having an anxiety attack.
All right, guys, we got to get this one right. On three, we're going to say welcome back to our extraordinary thoughts put on their mind. 1, 2, 3.
Welcome back to our extraordinary minds.
And we back.
That'll work right there.
Yeah.
And we back. And we
Yeah.
back. And we back. And we
We did our
back. And we
Y'all did y'all best.
Like
And that's all
that.
that matters.
Now, before we get started with this episode, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like this episode, share this podcast, and if you can, do me a favor, head on down to the review section and leave an honest review, because this podcast was dedicated to helping us become a better version of ourselves. And I don't know what that version is, but I know that just like we need a little bit more money, just like we need a little bit more sleep, just like we need a little bit more of anything in life, we deserve to be a little better than what we are right now. What's going on, everybody? It's that ordinary podcaster with the extraordinary thoughts that tells you to stop being great and be extraordinary. I'm your host, Demetrius Thigpen, also known as Meech Speaks, and welcome back to another episode of Extraordinary Thoughts for the Ordinary Mind. And I'm gonna tell you right now, oh my God, that right there, just saying that feels so good, man. Honestly, it just feels so good to be back. Like, although taking a break is very important, I'll tell you that this month, it felt like it was a year. You know what I mean? And now, once again, like, I always take breaks to recharge. I take breaks to refocus. I take breaks to gather my thoughts. You know, just to let things just marinate, let it rest for a second before I get back to it. And to come back after a break, it always feels like coming back to the gym after being away from it for so long. It always feels like coming back from work after being on vacation. And I'm not saying that the podcast is work, but it's more of getting back into a routine. And I just really want to just clear out my queue real quick and just address a couple of things before we really get started with the episode. First things first, I really want to say thank you to everybody that has supported me, online, offline. Thank you to everyone that has copped merch. I can't even believe that we got merch now. So if you haven't already, head over to the site, grab you a t-shirt, grab you a tote. We got more merch coming. I can't believe I have fucking merch. I really can't believe that. That's crazy. I also want to just take a moment and say that the podcast will no longer be Mondays and Fridays. We will only be doing Monday episodes. And the reason why I decided to do Monday only episodes is because I have other things that I have planned for y'all during the week. You know what I mean? Like, I plan to go live more. I plan to create more content. And it's not saying that Friday's episode always disrupted that, but I'm trying to jumpstart your Monday. You feel me? Like, I'm trying to give you the tools to get you through the week. I want you to recharge on the weekend. You know what I mean? Like, I really wanted you to do that. Honestly, let's get into this fucking episode. After coming back from a break, one of the hardest things that I feel like, I always feel like the hardest thing after coming back from a break with the podcast is the episode that I come back with. You know what I mean? Like, what episode am I going to start the new season with? After being away for a month or 2 months, how long, what type of episode am I going to bring to the table? It can't be no bullshit episode. You know what I mean? Like, it can't be these are the tools that we're going to use to succeed. Like some dumb shit like that. Like, it can't be that. And I remember, to be honest with you, I remember this morning I was scratching my head trying to gather what I would say. I got to record later on. Like, what am I going to say? And out of nowhere, the word fixation popped up in my head. The word fixation popped up. And then the moment that the word fixation popped up, an influx of negative thoughts followed right behind it. It made my heart beat. It made it made me shake. It made me just like, it almost put me down on the ground, to be honest with you. And for those who don't understand what it means to be fixated, it's a certain level of a obsession or attachment to someone or something. And I can assure you that I'm not attached to anybody. But the something that's been having my gaze, the something that's been having my attention, the something that's been having my focus, the something that's just really been holding space within my mind lately is just the idea of being successful. The idea of being perfected, being perfect, has held so much space within my mind that I wish I could tell you how much damage it did. And as I sit back and I try to diagnose and break down the damage in which it did to me, I can only go back in time. You know, the whole fourth season. You know, that season where we talked about emotional, being emotionally drained, emotionally hangry, getting over loss, dealing with heartbreak. We did our thing in Valentine's Day, and we followed up with being a good parent, and we talked about all of these things of how to deal within you. But I think I left a clue there that I really don't think I was paying attention to. I talk so much about you that I didn't realize that it was you. It was you that was causing the problems. And when I say you, I'm really referring to me. I'm really referring to me. We always sit back and we say to ourselves that you want to get away from toxic people. You want to get yourself out of a toxic situation. You want to remove yourself from a toxic environment. But what if the toxic is you? Before I came to this conclusion, I have found myself in a full-on depression. Full-on depression. Now, I've had depressive episodes before, but this was the longest one that I had ever experienced. I had just moved from California. All my friends, all my family, they in California across the country. I'm 3 hours ahead of them. So it isn't like I can really pick up the phone and call them. Shit, I got to deal with that later on in the day. I feel like I'm in a new environment, new expectations, new goals, new standards. Just got promoted. Dealing with issues that I really hadn't faced before, to be honest with you. I'm just gonna keep it 100 with you. I just really never faced that much change within such a short amount of time. And going into this new journey, a lot of people don't know, I hold myself to a very high standard. Some people tend to say that I can be kind of, what's that word, headstrong, or high strong or whatever the fuck it is. But some people tend to say that I take myself way too serious sometimes. I don't allow myself room to breathe. I don't allow myself to be human sometimes. And I didn't realize what they were saying until I started to take a step back. But before I talk about my steps back, let's just go ahead and just talk about where I was at. Surrounded by everybody else that's at this standard, I felt like I just wasn't there. I felt like no matter how good I was, I just felt like I wasn't meeting the mark. No matter how hard I worked, I just felt like it was just always going to be an uphill battle. And before long, I found myself in this negative loop. And I really want people to understand that, we sit back and we talk about being mindful, like let's practice mindfulness, but being mindful means to live in the present. And where I was at, I can assure you it was no longer the present. Things were happening around me, but for some reason I was still stuck in the exact same loop. And no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't find myself to get out of it. It was just this influx of negative thoughts. I'm not good enough. I keep fucking up. Why am I not as good as everybody else? I couldn't even look at people for what they were because the only thing I could see was a negative mirror of myself. I could no longer see my own value. We tend to talk about, freeing yourself and clearing your energy. And, when you're surrounded by negativity, sometimes you need to take a step back and just recharge and refocus and realign yourself. So I did that. I took 2 weeks to myself. I thought that would heal me. As I sat there for those 2 weeks, for some reason, every other day, I found myself on the floor having another anxiety attack. I found myself outside chain smoking. I found myself covering my ears because for some reason, I just couldn't get the voice out of my head. I didn't understand. I started to take advice from everybody else. I said, how can I get myself back to whole? How can I get this peace that I so desperately need? How can I be able to find something to be able to just realign me? They said, listen to your old episodes. I go back, I start listening to my old catalog, but for some reason, I just can't hear what that person is talking about. And then I started to think to myself, all right, let me just go ahead and just put it all out there. And as with each episode, I felt like I was diagnosing myself to the point where I was like, okay, I think I got it. Maybe I'm just emotionally drained. Maybe I'm not allowing myself to make mistakes. Maybe I'm just dealing with that detachment situation. Maybe it's just depression. Maybe it's just my anxiety. I'm trying to tell you, to be honest with you, I was really practicing what I was preaching. I really was. But everything that I was trying to pinpoint wasn't fixing me. I was so fixated that I couldn't see the problem that was in front of me. And I don't know who need to hear this, but I really just want to take a moment real quick and tell somebody that when you become fixated on the problem, right? When you become fixated on negativity, it's like being stuck in this negative loop that no matter how good something may be, you will never see it for how good it truly is. No matter how much progress you make, you will always be so critical on yourself. I'm talking about you will say to yourself like, oh, I could have lost more. I could have done better. You stop giving yourself praise and just start to degrade yourself. Oh, man. It's like a constant state of self-harm that we really just don't talk about. I remember I would find myself asking God to give me peace. Help me find peace. But no matter how many times that I would get that package in the mail, that package of peace in the mail, where I was constantly asking for him to deliver to me, I could never open it because I was stuck in a negative loop. I would sit back and say, God, just help me understand what's going on. And although he was trying to give me insight, I couldn't even hear what he was talking about because all I could be focused on was what I was not doing. All I could focus on was the negative space that I felt like I was in. So when I removed myself from the negative space, see, the thing is that no matter how many times you try to run away from that toxic environment, no matter how many times you try to remove yourself from them toxic people, no matter how many times you try to push them toxic situations away, it means nothing if the toxic energy that's lying within is within you. I called myself trying to burn some sage, but the thing is that all that energy was inside me. So the only thing I'm doing is disrupting the demons. We never really talk about the problems of what fixation can do to you, when you become obsessive over the wrong things. We always talk about chasing success. You got to be successful, follow your dreams. But the thing is that you don't give yourself peace. You in such a hurry to just be great, you don't give yourself peace. I'm talking about I was so fixated on being negative. I was so fixated in such a negative space that people would try to teach me things. But for me, to be honest with you, it really just sounded like the parents from Charlie Brown. All I heard was want, 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 well, want. They teaching me gold. They're giving me fucking gold, but all I can hear is copper. All I can hear is bullshit. All I can see, to be honest with you, is just a vision of me fucking it up. I would be given opportunities to be successful, but the moment that I would get out there, I would be so consumed by the idea that I'm about to fuck it up. Guess what I end up doing? Fucking it up. Just really want to just take a moment real quick, because as I'm trying to clear my spirit, I just really needed to get this energy out there. I apologize for just dropping all of this on you on this Monday morning, but I really just needed to get this energy out there because, see, the thing is that what a lot of people don't understand is that you could be around gold, you could be around successful people, you can be around all of the things that you need to be successful, but if you are constantly stuck in this negative loop, you see what I'm saying? When you constantly stuck in this negative loop, everything around you is muted. And the only voice that you can hear is the negative one that you have been given. It's just echoing. Saying things like you about to mess it up. You about to fuck it up. And we talk about law of attraction, based off of the positive and negative thoughts is going to determine the positive and negative outcomes within your life. I'm trying to tell you that with each negative thought that I had, it felt like as if my body was on autopilot. It was like the thing that I told myself not to do. I'm about to go and fucking do it. It's like, don't go out there and drop the ball. Guess what I'm about to do? Drop the ball. And then with each negative moment, it just adds to the negative bank. And when I talk about bank, man, I'm really trying to tell you, when you don't clear yourself, man, when you don't release yourself from that negative loop, it's like having a deposit of money go into your account, but you already are in a negative balance. So that money just ends up just equaling everything out. I'm talking about, I'm praying to God for peace, but God's giving me peace, but I'm filled with so much negativity right now. That peace is just keeping me from killing myself, to be honest with you. I'm venting to everybody, but the thing is that they're giving me advice, but the advice that they're giving me, my voice echoes a lot louder than theirs do, and it's just filled with so much negativity. That negative loop, I'm trying to tell you, it was so destructive. It was so harmful. So as I sat back on this break and I really tried to recharge, I really tried to refocus, I really tried to do what I had been telling everybody else to do, I just couldn't find a way to get out of that negative loop. Until I realized that you got to pay attention to what you're focusing on. Like, you got to pay attention to what you truly are focusing on. Like, if you're constantly focusing on negative thoughts, then all you will consume is negative thoughts. And because you consume negative thoughts, you will produce negative actions. Do you know how many times I was successful? I couldn't tell you how many times I was successful because I never acknowledged it. But I was so many times. I would hit the mark every single time, but for some reason, I just couldn't see it. And we sit back and we ask, God, give me the vision to be successful, but that vision means nothing if you won't even open your eyes. God, give me a sign, but it means nothing if you refuse to read it. God, just give me a whisper, but it means nothing if you constantly have your hands over your ears. But as I come back to podcasting, I really want to say that if you don't make room for positive thoughts, you will have no room for positive actions. Like if you don't let that shit go, then you constantly you will never go anywhere. Like if you don't release yourself from this critical thinking process that you have of this idea of perfection, I'm going to just be 100% with you. And I know I said it in a book. I know I said it back in season 1. I said it in season 2. I said it all through this fucking show. that you ain't designed to be perfect. That if it's 45 minutes out of the game and you fuck up the first 2 minutes, let that 2 minutes happen and just continue to keep producing for the next 43 fucking minutes. That if you drop the ball one time, understand that it's a basketball. That bitch supposed to dribble. You got to keep moving. That if you truly want to be successful, you gotta be understanding. Let me rephrase that. You gotta be considerate. Let me rephrase that. You gotta have a little certain level of empathy with yourself to accept the fact that you gon' fail. But you will never be successful if you are constantly focused on the failures. And this episode is brought to you by Rise Scenario-Based Training. That's right, Rise Scenario-Based Training, where we create the opportunity so you can rise to the occasion. And just like that, another extraordinary thought left this ordinary mind. I hope you enjoyed this episode half as much as I enjoyed making it. Stay tuned Mondays and Fridays. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Meech Speaks. Once again, that's Meech Speaks. Meech is spelled M-E-E-C-H. Don't forget to share this podcast, subscribe to this podcast, follow this podcast, pass this podcast to somebody, because this podcast was dedicated to helping everyone become a better version of themselves. Even though I don't know what that type of version is, I just know that you can be better. Lastly, don't forget to grab your copy of The Extraordinary Thought from the Ordinary Mind, available on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles. I think there's an electrical copy. You know what it is. Stay hungry, stay motivated. I'm out.